केशवधृता सुकररूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमलवरे नखम् अद्भुत शृङ्गां दलित हिरण्यकशिपू तनु भृङ्गम् शृङ्गाम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे चलयसि विक्रमणे बलिमद्भुतवामना पाधनकनीरजनित जनपावना बलिमद्भुतवामना जनिता जनपावना केशवधृता वामन रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे क्षत्रिय रुधिरमये जगदपगत पापम् स्नपयसि पयसि शमित भवतापम् क्षत्रिय रुधिरमये आपम् स्नपयसि पयसि शमित भवतापम् केशवधृता भृगुपतिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय श्री रामचंद्र भगवान। भीतर सिद्धिक्षुरणे धिक्पति कमनीयम् दशमुखमौलि बलिं रमणीयम् सिद्धिक्षुरणे धिक्पति गमनीयम् दशमुखमौलि बलिं रमणीयम् केशवधृता राम शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे राम शरीरा केशवधृता राम शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तरसिदेक्षुरने धिक्पति कमनीयं दशमुखमौलिबलिं रमणीयम् वितरसिदिक्षुरने धिक्पति कमनीयं दशमुखमौलिबलिं रमणीयम् केशवधृता राम शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता राम शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे शिव पुषि विशदे वसनं जलदाभं हलहति भीतिमिलिता यमुनाभम् केशवधृता हलधर रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे निन्दसि यज्ञविधेरः श्रुतिजातं सदय हृदय दर्शिता पशुघातम् केशवधृता बुद्ध शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे निवहनिधने कलयसि करवालं धूम धूमकेतुमिव किमपि करालम् कलयसि करवालम् धूमकेतुमिव किमपि करालम् केशवधृता कल्कि शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे 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 श्री जयदेव कवेरिदमुदितमुदारम् शृणु शुकदं शुभदं भवसारम् शृणु सुखदं शुभदं भवसारम् केशवधृता दशविधरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तरसि दिक्षुरणे दिक्पति कमनीयम् दशमुखमौलिबलिं रमणीयम् बलिं रमणीयम् वितरसि दिक्षुरणे दिक्पति कमनीयम् दशमुखमौलिबलिं रमणीयम् केशवधृता राम शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता राम शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki jai. Okay, so we'll chant the last one together. Vedanuddharate jaganti vahate bhulogam udbhibrate daityam dharayate balim chalayate kshatram kshayam kurvate पौलस्त्यं जायते हलं खलयते कारुण्यमातन्वते म्लेच्छान् मूर्छयते दशकृति कृते कृष्णाय तुभ्यं नमः. हरे कृष्ण. Okay. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। वंदे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंदौ सहोदितौ गौड़ोदये पुष्पवन्तौ चित्रौ संदौ तमोनुदौ आजानुलंबित भुजौ कनकावधातौ संकीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजवरौ जुगधर्मपालौ वंदे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणावतारौ। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचंद्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतानाथाय ते नमः। To the great Lord Rama, Raghunatha, Ramabhadra, the Lord who is the consort of Goddess Citta, my obeisances unto you. Okay, we can chant this verse together and then do the word to word in the translation, and then I will attempt to speak something about Lord Ramachandra. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye. Please repeat. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandarpitanghraye. Matajis. Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Dandarpitanghraye. Brahmanya Devaya Ramaya Kuntha Medhase Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya Nyasta Dandar Pitanghraye. Okay. Word to word translations. Namaha. We offer our respectful obeisances. Brahmanya Devaya. Unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who accepts the Brahmanas as his worshipful deity. Ramaya, unto Lord Ramachandra, Akuntha Medhase, whose memory and knowledge are never disturbed by anxiety. Uttama Shloka Dhuryaya, the best of very famous persons. Nyasta Danda Arpita Anghraye, whose lotus feet are worshipped by sages beyond the jurisdiction of punishment. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have accepted the Brahmanas as your worshipable deity. Your knowledge and memory are never disturbed by anxiety. You are the chief of all famous persons within this world, and your lotus feet are worshipped by sages who are beyond the jurisdiction of punishment. O Lord Ramachandra, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Okay, so So, today is the auspicious occasion of Lord Ramachandra's appearance. I will try to speak something. I may be a little out of it, in and out a little bit sometimes because not fully recovered yet, but still, it's a very auspicious day, and I wanted to serve in some way and also help Chandanacharya Prabhu. So, so the Lord Ramachandra is one of the principal incarnations of the Supreme Lord. This is an extremely important day for Vaishnavas because Lord Ramachandra and his Ramayana plays an extremely significant role in Vaishnava community. And why is this so, etc., we will discuss. I've been fortunate enough to read this book, Valmiki Ramayana, by Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu. It is the first complete translation of the Ramayana, verse by verse. Translation of the Ramayana. Only 3 cantos are out so far. There are a total of 7 cantos as far as my knowledge goes in the Ramayana. And 3 cantos are out, and I'm only in the first volume of the first canto and not even through 20%. I'm probably through 10% of this book. But it's very nectarian. This Ramayana, which we are reading, it was not commented upon by Srila Prabhupada, but we will touch what Srila Prabhupada said about the Ramayana and its significance. So, what is Ramayana? In Ramayana, the following things are taught. There's cardinal teachings of the cardinal teachings of Sri Ramayana are presented, which is why it's a Vaishnava text. So, the cardinal teachings are this. First off, if one has to be a Vaishnava, what is the first qualification of being a Vaishnava? Who can be called as a Vaishnava? One who follows Vishnu, one who respects the existence of Vishnu. In a broad sense, one who respects the existence, one who accepts Vishnu, can be called a broad category of Vaishnavas. And there's a whole article about this by I forgot his name now. Anyways, my memory is not expected, is generally dull and is expected to be further dull today. But anybody who wants this reference, it was published in the most recent Varnashrama journal, the first publication of the Varnashrama journal. But anyways, in a broad sense, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, when asked who is a Vaishnava, his first answer, his first answer is anybody who chants even the name of Krishna once is Vaishnava. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. So based on that, you can go on further. Okay, but in the strict sense, who is Vaishnava? Who is Vaishnava? Who can be accepted as Vaishnava? Yeah.
Who has the qualities?
Qualities, yes, definitely. That's a good answer. What else? One who surrenders. Okay, one who surrenders unto Lord Vishnu is a Vaishnava. Okay, what else is important? Yes, that's all part of surrender. What else is very important? Part of surrender, but before surrender comes one thing. You cannot surrender to Lord Vishnu if you don't accept one thing. Accept that He is supreme. This is extremely important. Vaishnava means one who accepts Vishnu, Krishna as supreme. So this is the first teaching of the Ramayana. That Lord Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, non-different from Lord Vishnu. And who is Vishnu? The eternal master of all the living entities. So this is the first teaching of the Ramayana. That Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the master of all the living entities. And this is revealed in the Vedas. And this is revealed in Shastras. And that Vishnu who is glorified in the Vedas as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared as Lord Ramachandra. And this Lord Ramachandra is different. Okay, but then in the Ramayana, why is it such an important Vaishnava text? Because in the Ramayana, the principles of surrender are delineated. The 6 aspects of surrender, which is, what is the 6 aspects of surrender? We should know this. It's a very, very, very important thing. Otherwise, you cannot surrender. But you have to know what is. As this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which speaks of this.
Accepting Krishna.
Everything as accepting first begins with accepting everything favorable. Right? Rejecting everything that's unfavorable. So how anybody knows Sanskrit? No. Okay. Anyways. So accepting anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. Then what else do you have? So you accept everything favorable to devotional service and you reject everything that is unfavorable to devotional service. What else?
The maintainer.
Krishna is the maintainer. You accept Krishna, rakshishyati iti vishvaso, that Krishna will protect, Krishna will provide, that the Lord will always protect, as Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu translates, firmly believing the Lord will always protect His devotee. Then, those are 3 aspects. What are the other 3? No. If you know Sanskrit, Goptrute Varanam Tata, Atma Nikshepa Karpanye, Shadvidha Sharanagati. So, what is it? Goptrute. Okay, I'll just, yes.
Accept as the protector and the...
Meaning that protector is already we have explained, but humility is another one. Atmaniksha, Karpanya, being always meek and humble is one quality. It's a very important aspect of surrender. Then the other 2 is being exclusively dependent on the Lord for one's mercy, for the mercy. Goptrutve. That he doesn't depend on the Supreme, anybody else except the Supreme Lord for mercy. He doesn't go to anybody else. It's fully surrendered. Goptrutve. And then Atmanikshepa. Completely throwing oneself, as completely throwing oneself at the feet, Atma Nikshepa. But that Atma Nikshepa also means having no interest different to that of the Supreme Lord. Having no self-interest, no personal motivation. This is called surrender. These aspects are taught in the Ramayana. Now, how are they taught in the Ramayana? They are not taught in this way. You will not find this list anywhere. You won't find this list in the Ramayana. And that's how the Ramayana is such an amazing text. Because, I'll jump to another portion here. Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu explains in his commentary, he says, the Vedic tradition employs 3 modes of teaching. Teaching directly like an authoritative master. 2, teaching indirectly like a well-wishing friend. And 3, teaching suggestively like a beloved wife. So 3 methods of teaching. It's very interesting. Authoritatively like the spiritual master. 2, like a well-wishing friend. Indirectly like a well-wishing friend. And 3, suggestively like a beloved wife. Then Prabhu continues on. He says, in this regard, it should be noted that the Bhagavad Gita teaches the essence of the Vedic scriptures directly. Bhagavad Gita gives direct information. Spiritual master giving instruction to disciple. This is the purpose of human life. This is, who God is. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabho mata sarvam pravartate. Everything comes from me. I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And those who worship me are intelligent. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So Krishna gives very clear information. He gives information about the soul. He gives information about Prakriti. What is Prakriti? He says that it's my energy. Daivi esha gunamami mama maya duratyaya. So he gives all these things very clearly and he speaks of it very authoritatively. In the end, Krishna says, listen Arjuna, if you don't, ultimately you can choose what to do. But if out of ego you don't follow what I'm telling you to do, then you will act according to your nature anyways, but you will become conditioned. So very authoritatively, just like spiritual master. So this is Bhagavad Gita. But because of this, people don't like Bhagavad Gita. They don't like to read Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita is very authoritative. It's Bhagavad Gita, you either accept it or you don't. But whether you accept it or not, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita will not change. And the method of delivering the Bhagavad Gita also won't change. Bhagavad Gita is delivered in a fashion forcing the disciple to surrender to the spiritual master. This is Bhagavad Gita. It's a very authoritative scripture. Therefore, those who are insincere, they try to interpret the Bhagavad Gita, in different ways because they don't like its direct message. And Prabhupada gave us Bhagavad Gita as it is. Now, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu explains that the Ramayana teaches it indirectly and suggestively. So the Ramayana teaches the same Vedic principles, the same principles that Bhagavad Gita teaches. What we spoke about, these 6 things, 6 aspects of Sharanagati and the aspect of Supreme Lord Krishna being Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavad Gita also teaches. But Bhagavad Gita gives it direct, straight up. This is how you take it. Ramayana explains the same thing indirectly and suggestively. Indirectly and suggestively. It doesn't directly present it. Rather, it presents it through the life and through the charitra of Lord Rama, through the story of Lord Ramachandra and the behavior and qualities of Lord Ramachandra and his devotees. How is the Bhagavatam? Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu says that the Bhagavatam teaches it directly, indirectly and suggestively. So Bhagavatam employs all 3. Direct, indirect and suggestive. Which is why in the Valmiki Ramayana you won't find much philosophy. It's just the story. Just the story. Because it's teaching indirectly and suggestively. Not directly. But Bhagavatam, you will find that there is entire sections of philosophy, entire set of instructions. But there are stories also. So the Bhagavatam employs all three methods. And in Bhagavad Gita, there is no story. I mean, just the beginning of the battlefield, they're on the battlefield, that's the story, finished. And then it's just instructions, straight up from beginning to end. And even in the little story that's there in the beginning, Seneyor Ubhayor Madhya Sthapayitva Rathotamam, all this, you can derive so many philosophical, things from that. And that's how Acharyas have commented. You will see Prabhupada, even from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, he doesn't speak much about the story of the Mahabharata or anything. He just goes straight into the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita is like that. So, this is, yes, last night, Chandanacharya Prabhu was sharing something that even I share, it's a feeling I share, is that, this Ramayana is perhaps one of the only books that when you read the whole story, you cry. It's difficult not to cry when you read the Ramayana. Because the Ramayana, when you have a proper devotional attitude, is a very, very moving book. It's actually as Bhakti Vikas Maharaj says, he says that Ramayana is a book full of sorrow. It's a sad story. Why is it? But it's not sadness. Because if it were sad, why would people read it again and again and again and derive so much transcendental bliss out of it? Because the Ramayana eventually draws us to bhakti. It eventually draws us to devotional service in a manner that we ourselves don't realize. Without even us realizing, the Ramayana makes us absorbed in Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. And this is the beauty of the Ramayana. And, so there's one of the reasons. I was going to speak more about that. But over here, we can see, that one of the principal methods, okay, I'll read this here. Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu writes, as such, Valmiki's Ramayana expounds the transcendental nature and supremacy of Lord Rama by identifying him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, and prescribes in several ways the absolute necessity of surrendering unto him. In each of his forms, the Supreme Lord exhibits a certain mood, and in the form of Lord Ramachandra, the son of King Dasharatha, he is famous as Maryada Purushottama, the Supreme Person who follows Vedic Dharma meticulously for the welfare of all. I forgot to comment on one thing. Okay. So, you have different forms of the Supreme Lord. And among those forms, in the form of Lord Ramachandra, he is known as Maryada Purushottama. There is a verse in Valmiki Ramayana. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha. This was interestingly stated by Maricha, who is uncle of Ravana. Uncle of Ravana says in Ramayana that Rama is the very personification of Dharma. He's the very personification of Dharma. And because of that, Lord Ramachandra establishes Dharma for the benefit of all. And he inspires people to follow Dharma. Now, this is another reason why the Ramayana is something very easy to connect for most people compared to Lord Krishna's pastimes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes is even more inconceivable. Why? Because anybody who becomes a little pious, okay, what are the 4 Purusharthas? The 4 goals that are stated in Vedic texts. So you have, So what is sense gratification? Kama. Then? Artha. What is Artha? Economic development. Then? Dharma. What is Dharma? Religiosity. Okay. Then? Moksha. What is moksha? Liberation. You have these 4. Right? Now, generally those who are pious, those who are theists, who are not atheists. Those who are theists. What is theist? According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, who is theist? One who follows Vedas is a theist. Right? One who follows Vedas is a theist. So, if you follow Vedas, what do you do? What is the basic characteristic of one who follows Vedas? One who follows Vedas, what do? Basic principle. Whether they may be a worshipper of Shiva or the worshipper of Kali, whether they're worshipper of Vishnu, whatever. Follower of Vedas means there is one particular characteristic. Dharma. They follow the codes of dharma. The dharma, the codes of religion, the codes of conduct that is laid down in the Shastra. For instance, it is dharmic for a person, once he is married, to not divorce. Divorce is adharma. You cannot divorce. Whether you may be a follower, whether you may be a worshipper of Shiva, whether you are a worshipper of Durga, whether you are a devotee of Krishna, if you are a theist, you cannot divorce. These are basic moral principles. It's not that because we are devotees, we don't follow dharma. Devotees also have to follow. It's very basic characteristic. So these are codes of dharma. Codes of dharma. And so these codes of dharma are accepted by anybody who is pious. Okay, before they are able to comprehend or even accept Vishnu is supreme, they accept dharma. Because that's basic qualification of being pious. Basic qualification of being a human being is that you behave according to how human beings are said to behave in Shastra. Not that you behave like an animal. Therefore, the Ramayana is something that most people in the Vedic culture can connect to. As Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu writes here, Sri Valmiki Ramayana is one of the foundational scriptural authorities on all aspects of Vedic and Vaishnava philosophy, culture and discipline. Right? Vedic and Vaishnava philosophy, culture and discipline. As such, this great literature has been a source of knowledge and inspiration to Vaishnavas of the four authentic disciplic successions that stem from the Supreme Lord Himself and is much loved amongst all who accept the authority of Vedic scriptures, even if they happen to be Shaivas, Shaktas and so on. What to speak of them? Even some Buddhists who officially deny any allegiance to Vedic teachings revere the Valmiki Ramayana, for it is a true sage's direct perception in Samadhi about Rama, the very personification of Dharma. So, if you go to Thailand, they are all Buddhists. But if there is something they like, it is the Ramayana. They know Krishna is there. There is a word, and I forget. My Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj says there's a they pronounce Krishna in their language in a little strange way, but they know, they're aware. But Lord, I mean, even now, if you go to the Bangkok airport, there's the churning of the Milk Ocean, the thing, and the largest Ramayana festival. Where did it happen? It didn't happen in India. It happened in Indonesia. So the Buddhists of Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, Myanmar, and many other places, they respect the Ramayana because Rama is very personification of Dharma. This is how someone should lead life. Rama and his devotees are perfect examples of how different people should lead their lives. And therefore it's very dear. And as we progress in Krishna consciousness and we get a sense, okay, we also should live like human beings, not like animals. I mean, and chanting Hare Krishna enables that. I was just thinking this morning, how fortunate are we that we are able to think about Lord Ramachandra, discuss about Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. I mean, this is all completely irrelevant to us. To even appreciate the qualities and characteristics of those of the devotees described in the Ramayana, we would have not even conceived about this if it weren't for Srila Prabhupada's mercy. If we weren't chanting Hare Krishna, if it weren't for Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Lord Chaitanya has given us Lord Ramachandra. Because without Lord Chaitanya, what would we know about Rama? What would we know about Krishna? What would we know about anything? So as we progress in Krishna consciousness, as we, come to a better level of consciousness, mode of goodness and higher, the Ramayana becomes something very, very relishable. Because the codes of dharma, which were otherwise completely alien to us, we cannot even conceive of these things because we didn't live in that way. They become very relevant and they become very dear to us. My point is, we can appreciate the Ramayana sooner than we can appreciate the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Ramayana is written primarily to inspire people to worship Lord Ramachandra through dharma. And dharma is something that many people connect with. And this is why the Ramayana is such an important text. But it is not that because, as Vaishnavas, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, you have to abandon all varieties of dharma and surrender unto the Supreme Lord. It does not mean that one neglects dharma altogether. But rather, through the Ramayana, one understands how one can follow dharma for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. That people are inclined to follow dharma for what reason? To promote artha and kama. This is why people are generally interested in dharma. They are interested in dharma for the sake of becoming wealthier, for the sake of promoting sense gratification. This is why they are interested in being moral. Otherwise, they are not interested. But the Ramayana directs that interest in dharma to worshipping the Supreme Lord. And this is the amazing theme of the Ramayana, and it's really beautiful. And in that sense, it's very endearing. In another thing that you see in the Ramayana, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu writes, the central teaching of the Ramayana is that Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the eternal Supreme Lord of all living entities, who because of their aversion to unmotivated and uninterrupted service unto his lotus feet are subjected to the continuous cycle of birth, death, old age and disease, and therefore it is in their best interest that they surrender unto his lotus feet. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead is ever ready, out of affection for the living entities, his dear children, to award them all kinds of protection from the miseries imposed upon them by material nature. We should not commit the mistake by thinking Lord Rama is a conditioned soul like us, or even a liberated soul. He is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, ever independent and free from the influence of Maya. So, in the Ramayana, you see the Curtis, if you want to stand up, you can. So, in the Ramayana, the personalities and the devotees of Lord Rama follow dharma perfectly. But in spite of following dharma perfectly, their life is not what you would expect it to be. Why? Is it useless to follow dharma? Could that be the conclusion? So from the Ramayana, what can we learn? That devotees of Lord Ramachandra follow dharma perfectly. And I will go through that a little bit. Okay, I'll give some examples, right? I'll do it right now. So, you see here, Dasharatha is a king. What kind of a king he is? In the dynasty of the extremely powerful kings, pure like pearls in a necklace, the brilliant pendant of that necklace, King Dasharatha was born. That king, who protected the earth of 7 islands with a single royal flag, resided in the city famous as Ayodhya. When he was maintaining the earth, the 4-legged bull of Dharma, possessing the 2 horns of Artha and Kama, and carrying the load of Moksha, factually prospered. In that kingdom, no one unfavorable to him and desirous of his favor, or favorable to him and desirous of a fight with him, was found by that magnanimous and great hero. Apart from his sonlessness, No defect of any kind was noticed in that king, so devoted to pleasing his citizens, just like no defect is noticed in the moon, apart from its characteristic markings resembling a rabbit. So, Dasharatha was such a king that he was, first off, he was a devotee of the Supreme Lord. He possessed all the good qualities that one can expect. All the 64 qualities of a Vaishnava were present in him. Not only that, he was a perfect ruler. He ruled the entire world with a single flag, under a single king, flag. He was so efficient in ruling that none of his citizens, no defect. The citizens could not notice any defect in either his rule or his character. And how was the kingdom? Extremely prosperous. And the example is given the bull of Dharma. Dharma the bull, who appears also in the Bhagavatam, who is held up by what? The four legs of? What is the four legs of Dharma? Cleanliness, truthfulness, austerity, and mercy. So all these four legs of Dharma were strong because the bull of Dharma. And how is the bull of Dharma? It's very healthy. And what is its two horns? Artha and Kama. And what is it carrying on its back? Moksha, the Lord of Moksha. This prospered. So this is a very, very important analogy here that comes in this summary of the Ramayana. It's a very important analogy. Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu explains that this is a fine explanation of the relationships between the four Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. As pointed out in the commentary of Sri Govindaraja on Ramayana, Sri Valmiki demotes Artha and Kama while promoting Dharma and Moksha. Here also the bull of Dharma is considered to have Artha and Kama as its two horns, signifying that we should be careful about them. Just as we are careful in dealing with the horns of a bull. Generally, those who are new to taking care of cows and they're fascinated by cows and bulls, one of the things they like to do is what? Go and grab the horn. And the cows hate it. You grab the horn, immediately they start to, shake their head and they get a little aggressive. They don't like grabbing, but the general tendency of a foolish person is to go and grab the horn because it looks nice. For some reason, isn't it crazy? What Maya, is it not? The horn, it can gouge your intestines out, The horn is a very dangerous thing. All the cow has to do is just go like that and you're finished. You'll be injured very seriously. But what do foolish people, what do the ignorant do? The ignorant go and grab the horn. We all have, I've done it. We all have experience of this. It's so tempting to go and grab that horn and feel it. But that's why the analogy is so good. Because as conditioned souls, we are so eager to go and grab the horns of Artha and Kama, to grab on sense gratification and economic development. We are so eager in our lives for economic development and sense gratification, and we don't understand that the bull is Dharma. And that even though you may be respectful to the bull, just like as a cow, you are approaching that cow with affection. You are approaching the bull with affection. So in that sense, you are affectionate towards Dharma. But even though you might be affectionate towards Dharma, if you go and foolishly grab the horns of a bull, the bull will attack you, even though you might be approaching it with some affection. Similarly, even though one might be in namesake, one might show some affection for Dharma, but one's main interest is sense gratification and economic development, one is expected to get injured in life. One is expected to suffer. And when the bull attacks, what's the question of the Lord? On top, any creature that is attacking something cannot hold something properly. Does it forgets about the Lord altogether? Because now it's in the mode of attacking. So it's not going to be careful about the Lord. So moksha is completely out of the window. It's a very, very nice analogy here. Very nice analogy. And what does the Valmiki Ramayana do? It cautions about Artha and Kama, demotes and promotes dharma and moksha. Now, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu continues, as Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly points out, those who are pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, however, are not interested in any of these four. For they are obsessed with unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita are meant for such pure Vaishnavas. However, the Ramayana, like the Bhagavad Gita, can be understood to be a preliminary study of the teachings found in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, it promotes dharma and moksha with surrender unto the Lord, thus preparing the way to become a pure devotee of the Lord, following the standard of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is how reading the Ramayana can help us appreciate the Bhagavatam better and the Chaitanya Charitamrita better. Because the Bhagavatam, the Ramayana, gives us a practical understanding that just like we were speaking, okay, so Dasharatha, he is such a perfect personality. You see how his kingdom, it's prospering. And the citizens have no problem with the king. They are completely satisfied. And there is wealth, there is abundance, there is, everything. Protection, there is no fear in the kingdom. This is King Dasharatha's rule. In spite of that, Dasharatha had to go through misery. Right? He had to lose after so much difficulty, he gets a son like Lord Rama. And then his own wife orders him to banish that son. And out of separation from that son, he passes away. So what do you understand from this? What can you understand? The nature of the material world is that even if you follow dharma perfectly, and even if you keep kama and artha at bay, this material world is a place of suffering. And the mood of the residents of the devotees of Lord Rama is always in one sense that they lament that Lord Ramachandra, for the sake of the conditioned souls, to teach the conditioned souls proper behavior, proper characteristic, he has to go through so much trouble. And this pains their heart. It pains the heart of themselves, it pains the heart of all the devotees of Lord Rama. Because the devotees of Lord Rama know that Lord Ramachandra is not different from Narayana and Lakshmi. And they think, why does he have to follow these things? But no, he follows it for the sake of teaching the corrupt conditioned souls. And therefore, the dream of the desire of the devotees of Lord Rama is to worship him in Ayodhya in perfection, where not in this material world, but in the spiritual world, where Lord Ramachandra is eternally in Ayodhya with his consort Citta Devi, worshipped by all his devotees in a very happy setting. And there they are happily glorifying the Supreme Lord Ramachandra, and they don't have any worries. But in this material world is not a place for a gentleman. This material world is not a place of enjoyment. And these things you can learn from the Ramayana. That in spite of being a good devotee and things like that, still there are people who are envious. Lord Ramachandra, Dasharatha, they have no intention to harm anybody else. But the demons are harming them. Because the demons are envious. And therefore, one who is a devotee does not aspire to continue material existence in this world. Even though there may be so many types of material pleasures, he is not interested in them. So this is one of the things that you can learn from reading, but it's not told directly. This is not, but you can see the lamentation, you can see. And automatically, for a person who reads the Ramayana, there is that feeling, why this is happening? Why does Sita have to be banished? Why does Lord Rama have to be exiled in the forest? There is great celebration, and then immediately there is some danger that happens. So Lord Ramachandra is coronated, and he does everything he can to show that Citta Devi is pure, that Sita is not contaminated, that she was Sita literally enters the fire and proves her purity. In spite of that, one of his own citizens criticized. And Lord Ramachandra will not ignore it, because he is Maryada Purushottama. He is Dharmavan Vigraha. He puts dharma before everything else. And seeing that, devotees of Lord Rama are encouraged also to place dharma for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That whatever gives pleasure to the Supreme Lord, they will do that. And that becomes their dharma. The worship of the Supreme Lord, the pleasure of the Supreme Lord becomes their dharma. Through following, the Ramayana. So, Lord Ramachandra, ultimately, he inspires devotees in the Ramayana for them to surrender. And he promises them, you will get out of this material world. I promise you liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Now, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu also makes a very important point here. He says, incidentally, one will also find this scripture presents a wealth of significant detail regarding the workings of civilized humanity, that is, a community of human beings who accept Vedic authority, follow certain common spiritual duties, and additionally follow the specific duties of the 4 varnas and ashramas, with women following their specific duties, in such a manner that they are released from the clutches of Maya within one lifetime. This will then be of special interest to the members of the Krishna consciousness movement established by Srila Prabhupada, for he had stated that the first half of his mission was to establish Bhagavata Dharma, or the process of devotional service to Krishna, and the second half of his mission was to establish Varnashram Dharma. It is also well known that he had stated that he was personally able to establish the first half, he was able to personally accomplish the first half of his mission to his followers. Since the Valmiki Ramayana presents all aspects of Varnashram Dharma in detail as demonstrated by the Supreme Lord and his associates, it should be of special interest to Srila Prabhupada's faithful followers. This is a very, very, very important point. That the Ramayana, being very descriptive in nature, describes the behavior of every aspect of social life in Vedic culture. Why is it important to us? Because we are not Haridas Thakur chanting 192 rounds and not doing anything social. Haridas Thakur did not have time to engage with the prostitute because he didn't finish his rounds. That was Haridas Thakur. Even he didn't have time to socialize with the prostitute who clearly came to enjoy with him, and his reason was he had to chant rounds. It's quite amazing that he didn't engage in social life even to that extent. How are we? Within our 16 rounds we engage our social life also. That's who we are. We have japa talks. Our japa period is some of the best times when we have some of the best conversations in life. No, it's our fallen position. We are very, very fallen. That we cannot chant 16 rounds. Here Haridas Thakur, most beautiful prostitute, Maya Devi herself, comes in front of him. And he's saying, actually, I don't have time, I have to chant my rounds. You sit here. Nobody is in the room, we'll go find someone. Or we'll pull up our phone. She doesn't have to come to us, we'll go find her. No, this is who we are. We are not those people who completely follow Bhagavata Dharma like some of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. We have to come to that platform someday, hopefully. But in the meantime, there are social considerations. And these social considerations form the strata of our devotional society. Because if we do not learn how to conduct such social dealings in a manner that will eventually, as Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu puts it here, that we are released from the clutches of Maya within one lifetime. Then everything is, then what are we doing? We've lost the whole point. Please wake him up. So what are we doing? This is a very, very important point to understand. That the Ramayana explains how duties of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas can be followed, and women. There's many examples in this regard. Right? As I'm reading the first, I'm just reading the summary. It's so nice. Certain things I'm seeing here. Okay. Let me see if I can find something. And, okay. Okay. See here. This is Dasharatha performing the yajna, the Putra Kameshti yajna, to obtain Lord Ramachandra as his son. Yeah. And what does he do? He says, so, how are the priests? Rishi Shringa and Vashishta, expert in Karmakanda procedures, properly executed the Ashwamedha Yajna, the king of sacrifices, with the sacrificial priests endowed with good qualities. Thinking of Lord Keshava in the sacrificial mantras, procedural rules, instruments, performers, fires, place, and time, they executed their prescribed duty spotlessly. So here are Brahmanas who are doing the yajna, but what are they thinking of? They are thinking of Keshava. They are thinking of Lord Hari all the time. It doesn't say that a proper priest is one who is a devotee of Lord Vishnu, who performs all these duties that are stated in the Vedas. Prabhupada says these things. Does he not? He says, why are there no? Because there are no qualified Brahmanas. No qualified Brahmanas, because first of all, nobody has the quality. So here you see, the sacrificial priests endowed with good qualities. They're endowed with all the good qualities, and they're devotees of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they're sacrificed. But it's not stated here. But indirectly you understand. Oh, so if I have to perform worship, if I have to perform worship of the Supreme Lord, then I must always think of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because Rishi Shringa and Vashishta did that. And when Rishi Shringa and Vashishta did that, along with all the priests, Supreme Lord Ramachandra himself descended on this planet. That was the power of executing worship with the remembrance of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Vayu and the other demigods were delighted by the performance of the Ishti sacrifices. So when one performs duties like that, what is that verse? That you water the root. Sanskrit verse in Bhagavatam. Yathatharor moola nishenena tripyanti tatskanda bhujopashaka pranapahara cha yatendriyanam tataiva sarvahanam achutebhyaha. Bhagavatam says that if you worship Krishna, if you worship Vishnu, it's just like watering the roots of a tree. Just like all the branches and leaves and fruits and flowers, they all become nourished. Similarly, simply by worship of Hari, of Krishna, all the demigods are satisfied. You see that here. Vayu and the other demigods were delighted by the performance of the Ishti sacrifices, the offerings of the Pravargya, sacrificial oblations, the 3 Savanas sacrificial oblations of Soma juice, and various sacrificial animals. Indeed, who can describe that sacrifice, whose sponsor was Dasharatha, the performer was Vasishta, the dear son of Brahma, and the result was the appearance of Lord Rama. Then, see this. Observing that all of the directions, though donated personally to the priests, were returned to him, Dasharatha gave in charity 100 million gold coins and 100,000 cows to the priests. So, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu writes, Dasharatha first donated his entire kingdom, all the directions, to those Brahmanas, but being self-contented, they donated it back to him. So what are we going to do with all the directions? You have it back. They donated it back to him. He then donated them gold coins, which they could use to conduct fire sacrifices in worship of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and thus be of benefit to one and all. We should remember that in Treta Yuga, this was Yuga Dharma. This performance of sacrifice was the Yuga Dharma. How would engagement in such sacrifices benefit everyone? This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 10 to 15. What is that? If somebody can even remind me the first verse. Sahayagya prajashishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishya dhvam yesha voshta kamaduk. What is the translation?
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
So sacrifice, be thou happy by the sacrifice, for its performance will bestow upon you all that is desirable in this lifetime and also liberation. This is the performance. And what sacrifice are we performing? Sankirtan Yajna. The benefit can be seen that when performed properly, there cannot be a problem with one's basic needs. It cannot be. Rather, one has to meticulously execute the yajna, which begins with chanting the holy name. The Chaitanya Mangal gives a description as to how the body is like the sacrificial arena, and the tongue is like the spoon that pours the ghee, and the element that is offered in sacrifice is the holy name itself, and that holy name is offered into the pit, the fire pit of the ears of one's body, and from that fire springs the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yajna himself, in the hearts of all the living entities. Such a beautiful description of Sankirtan Yajna. If we can even meditate upon this and then think how these great devotees of Lord Rama, how this sacrifice was, you can connect these things. This is how one can see Lord Ramachandra. Hold on, I missed the part. Okay, and then what happened? Sorry. Oh. Yeah. The master of the four Varnas, Dasharatha, gave in charity silver coins 4 times in quantity to that of gold coins, and offered the priest obeisances on the ground, saying, "May Lord Vishnu be pleased with this." So, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu comments, throughout the entire sacrifice, Dasharatha was selflessly absorbed in the singular thought, "May all this satisfy Lord Vishnu." So you just see this perfect quality, perfect characteristics. They are performing their duties, but they are thinking, how can this satisfy Lord Vishnu? He is not thinking, I want a son so that I can cuddle him, I can kiss him, I can do this, I can do that. He wants a son, but he's not thinking of it in a mundane way. He's thinking of it in a transcendental way. He's thinking of it like a devotee. And this is how all the personalities in the Ramayana execute their different duties. So, now I wanted to read another part of seeing from Lord Ramachandra's own behavior. So, Okay. So, when Vishwamitra, this is Rama and Lakshmana have been taken to the forest by Vishwamitra to kill Tataka, Maricha and Subahu. This Tataka is a demoness. She's a Rakshasi. And so Vishwamitra and Ramachandra approach her. When Vishwamitra, the one dear to the sages, said this and became quite like a sage, he entered the residence of Tataka, a forest, with Rama and Lakshmana. When Rama, the best of the bowmen, twanged his bow, that sound like a spark of fire scorched Tataka's earhole for a moment. Even before deer, birds, and other creatures in the forest, terrified by the sound, woke up, that Rakshasi got up and came in front of Rama. Despite seeing her with a large body and great prowess, her mouth wide open like a great cave, and her hands stretched, Rama stood undisturbed, repeatedly sounding an uproar with an extreme force like that of a hurricane. That Rakshasi showered a rain of dust upon that prince. Then, upon seeing that mystic Tataka showering stones, the Lord who has Garuda upon his flag cut her 2 terrible hands with his arrows. Her lip and nose cut by Lakshmana, the son of Sumitra, that enemy of the saints, who could assume any form she liked, disappeared and threw a shower of weapons. Then the sage told Rama, who was embarrassed to have to kill a woman, "O child, this Rakshasi is a killer of saints. Kill her, kill her." Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu comments, in Krishna Leela, when Putana took the child Krishna in an attempt to kill him, he closed his eyes. Srila Prabhupada remarks in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chapter 6, as thus. Krishna appeared in order to kill the demons and give protection to the devotees. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. The first demon to be killed was a woman. The first demon that Krishna killed was a woman. According to the Vedic rules, the killing of a woman, a brahmana, cows or child is strictly forbidden. Krishna was obliged to kill the demon Putana, and because the killing of a woman is forbidden according to Vedic Shastra, he could not help but close his eyes. We notice that in Rama Leela, the first demon to be killed was also a woman. And here too, Lord Rama exhibited great embarrassment in having to kill a woman who are generally meant to be disciplined, when they caused violent disturbance in society, unless they are exceptionally cruel and uncontrollable like Tataka. So, what do you see from this? So then, after Vishwamitra says this, within a moment and effortlessly, the wielder of the disc, Sudarshana, put her who had surrounded him in circles in a bed of arrows. Noticing her approaching him, desiring to bestow the path of Bhagavad Dharma to his devotees, the Supreme Personality of Godhead split asunder Tataka's heart with an arrow by his own expertise. Despite, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu comments, despite being put on a bed of arrows when Tataka attempted to attack Lord Rama again, because she had prevented his devotees from worshipping him through their then Yuga Dharma, in order to help them continue doing good for the ultimate good of one and all, he shot an arrow and killed her. So Supreme Lord, what is he doing? He is protecting his devotees from being able to perform the Yuga Dharma. And this demoness, Tataka, Rakshasi, was disturbing the devotees and preventing them from executing the Yuga Dharma, which in that age was performance of sacrifice. And what does the Supreme Lord do? Here, so nicely it's written. This is actually a canto summary by Sri Narayana Pandit, I think. That's his name. He's a disciple of Madhvacharya. Narayana Pandit, Sangraha Ramayana, And he says, noticing her approaching him, desiring to bestow the path of Bhagavad Dharma to his devotees, the Supreme Personality God split asunder Tataka's heart with an arrow by his own expertise. So, in order to allow his devotees to perform Yuga Dharma, it's with that desire that the Supreme Lord killed this Rakshasi. Otherwise, he doesn't have anything to do with her. He doesn't care. But it's because she's disturbing devotees. And from this, what can you understand? In this age, Lord Chaitanya protects us when we perform the Sankirtan Yajna. And when demons come and obstruct us, what does he do? He makes them into devotees. This is Nityananda Prabhu's great mercy. It's Lord Chaitanya, he destroys demons by giving them Krishna consciousness. By giving them also, not only does Lord Chaitanya protect his devotees and bestows upon them Bhagavad Dharma, he bestows Bhagavad Dharma even upon those who are envious of those performing Bhagavad Dharma. So this is Lord Chaitanya's great mercy. Of course, one cannot take this as a license to commit Vaishnava aparad. After one knows all of these things, if one commits offenses to the devotees, then that is a very serious problem. That will not be forgiven. But things done out of ignorance, the Lord is generally very merciful in this age. So you can see, and another thing you can see here, Rama is being instructed. He's hesitating. His spiritual master Vishwamitra tells him to do one thing. Immediately he does it. He doesn't think, and he performs his duty so perfectly. So when one is given a challenge, and it's a challenging thing for Lord Rama, this is the first demon he's going to kill, and it happens to be a woman. As a Kshatriya, he's learning all these moral codes, and he's coming in the line of the greatest kings of the solar dynasty, Surya Vamsha, Raghu Vamsha. And the first person he has to kill in his life is a woman. But his spiritual master says it, he does it, finished. That is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So nice. I mean, there is another wonderful part where he's this is Lord Ramachandra. At Mithila, he is about to break the bow of Lord Shiva and obtain Citta as his consort. So this is the scene there, right? So the scene it's beautifully described. I can't read everything. It's just like, it's really fantastic. So Raghava, this is Dasharatha, sorry, not Dasharatha, this is Janaka Maharaj, father of Sita, saying this to Vishwamitra, right? Raghava, that is Lord Ramachandra, can certainly lift this bow, and may Sita, who is similar to him, follow him, her husband, like the moonlight that follows the full moon, like the sunlight that follows the sun. So already here the relationship between Rama and Sita are being described as perfect husband and wife. That Sita, who is similar to him, similar. How similar? Like moonlight follows the moon. The moonlight and moon are so intimately connected. They are similar. Yet the moonlight follows the moon. And like the sunlight follows the sun. Not some incompatible, buffoons who get married together. Not like that. But that there is some compatibility. And that compatibility is what? What is that compatibility? You will see previously. Let me see here. Okay. Vishwamitra tells this to Dasharatha, this is before this, right? The best of archers wants to see your bow. It seems that bow of yours has become a testing stone for goal-like archers. O hero, accept him, Rama, who is endowed with all auspicious qualities as your son-in-law. Just as the presiding deity of the milk ocean previously accepted the ancient person Narayana as his son-in-law. And before that, Dasharatha glorifies Lord Rama. He's asking who he is. And he says, "Who is this best of men, handsome, dark like an emerald, his eyes like lotus leaves, endowed with fresh youth? Indeed, who is he with the shoulders of a lion, with a wide chest, his face like the full moon, with a deep navel, his neck shaped like a conch shell, and his arms strong, not surprised at anything. His face is always smiling. His movement is like the king of elephants. He is learned and intelligent. O sage, who is this so humble while speaking measured words with immeasurable meaning?" Measured words with immeasurable meaning. Meaning his words are filled with gravity. But they're spoken, they're chosen, they're choice, not some rant that just, flows out of the mouth like some sewage pipe. So, he is Cupid to woman, yet, okay, all his beauty is described. Now see, yet he is the servant of learned persons like yourself. He is nothing but death to his enemies and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, to the yogis. This extremely tender boy is a festival for the eyes of the people. We cannot tolerate his lotus feet touching the earth. Who is this person standing next to him, resembling him, who this red-lipped one constantly follows like a shadow, referring to Lakshmana, his brother Lakshmana. Such a beautiful description. So then, going back to that place, he says that we were seeing how one second. Okay. Who is Citta? Well, I have to look. It's difficult to find the descriptions, but and Citta, the daughter of Janaka, is not at all an ordinary woman. She is respected by the whole world. She appeared from the earth while carrying out a sacrifice, like Shri, the wife of the Supreme Lord, who appeared from the ocean. Citta alone can be the pleasing wife of Rama, and Rama is alone qualified for her, as Indira alone is fit for Mukunda, and Mukunda is alone fit for Indira. Indira is another name for Lakshmi. Rama's husbandhood of Citta is not to be tested by the king by his lifting the bow. Indeed, the sun's relationship with sunlight is not to be tested with the help of a lamp. Such a beautiful description. May this boy, the son of King Dasharatha, accept the hand of this girl, the daughter of King Janaka. May Lord Narayana fully approve this. Oh friends, we pray for this with our own piety. Who is saying all these things? The women of Ayodhya. The women of Ayodhya are speaking like this at that ceremony that's going to happen. Lord Rama is going to, and they're like, what is this test? Why does there even need to be a test? A nonsense test. How can you test the sunlight with the lamp? This is perfect. And then the ears of the men in that assembly were happy upon hearing the loud talks of the women residing in that city. Without being least surprised, with a smiling face, Lord Rama went and lifted the bow with his left hand. So, before that, he's ordered by Vishwamitra. And see how he accepts this order. Lord Rama, how does he accept this order? The broad-minded Vishwamitra then told the king, who had spoken thus, O king, may that bow that neutralizes heroism be quickly brought. Then, on the king's order, by means of a benediction from Lord Shiva himself, the excellent weapon of Lord Shiva was carefully concealed in an iron casket, fitted with 8 wheels, was dragged and brought over by excellent heroes numbering 500. 500 men had to drag that bow to this arena. The sage then told, Vishwamitra is then telling, Lord Mukunda, child Rama, string this jewel of bows. So he just gives him an instruction. How does Lord Rama react? Upon instructing thus, the Lord, the son of King Dasharatha, stood up while muttering, Om. And Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu comments, Om in this context indicates agreement. So Lord Rama, he's so perfect in his behavior. Here the Guru is commanding him, do this. Immediately, there is enthusiasm, there is spontaneity. There is no some tamogun, it's like dragging one's feet, nothing. Immediately, he accepts, he gets up, and the whole scene is just so perfect. The different personalities, devotees of Lord Rama, they act in such ideal ways. One incident that I was thinking of is that when Hanuman and the Vanaras, that batch, Angada, led by Angada, they went south looking for Citta. And they entered some cave and they met some mystic Mataji, and she fed them nicely, and then they all fell asleep and they woke up on the shore of the ocean. So at that time they become so despondent because they're like, what did we do? So many, the seasons have passed and we didn't go, we failed in our duty. And we are now at the bank of the ocean, like what are we going to do? And in that despondency, what does Angada do? He decides to fast to death. He doesn't tell anything to anybody else. Immediately seeing that he is going to fast to death, the other Vanaras think, what are we going to live for? Our master is going to die, and Lord Ramachandra, whom we were supposed to serve, is not going to be pleased. What is the use of this life? We will also fast and die. Nobody had to instruct them in that way. But just see the perfect way in which the servants follow the mood of their master. That perfect mood and it's all in devotion to Lord Rama. Rama is not even there. But they know how to worship Lord Rama in the form of performing their duty so perfectly. And these incidents, when one remembers them, they serve as inspiration in different aspects of our life. In our life, in our different, in different ways, we face so many challenges while executing our devotional service. But when we remember Lord Rama's pastimes and we execute our duties in that way for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna, then we get the same benefit. So this is the nectar, and it's just so beautiful. Like yesterday I was like chanting, looking at this beautiful, painting here. This painting, this is the beginning of the Ramayana actually. Lava and Kusha are sons of Lord Rama, and they don't even know that they are sons of Lord Rama, and Rama doesn't know that these are his sons. Of course, this Supreme Lord knows everything. This is the pastime. And I believe this is Valmiki, and he has trained them to sing the Ramayana, and they are reciting the Ramayana in the assembly of Lord Rama, where the four brothers are sitting here relishing their own pastimes, and all the residents are sitting here, and it's really beautiful. You look at the expressions of the different individuals. Here you see, this Vanara, it could be Sugriva, it could be Hanuman. They are chanting and singing, and all the sages and everybody, they are absorbed. And the scene is so beautiful, especially the expressions on the four brothers, Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna. It's so amazing. And the innocence of the boys while they are singing the Ramayana, it's really amazing. And it's just something to just meditate, and just looking at that scene is so relishable. So many things in Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. They're very relishable, and they're very purifying, they're very humbling. They're very humbling. The Ramayana, just as Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu so nicely described, like a beloved friend and like a well-wishing friend and a beloved wife, they induce you to become, proper behavior, because we're too egoistic. We're too egoistic. You receive the instructions directly. It's like so. Sometimes we are not so sincere that we know that if we go and speak to someone, they'll give us a direct instruction. We don't want to hear it, so we'll go and talk to 5 other people. Get cheated on the way. But the Ramayana is like that well-wishing friend and like that beloved wife who gently gives us by attracting us to their qualities. It's like we become, he is my friend. In that relationship, one accepts what the friend is saying. The beloved wife, she's affectionate, she's loving, she's caring, and in this way her suggestions are taken seriously by her husband. So very, very nice things that one can learn. And like Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu wrote, we have to establish Varnashram Dharma. It's not an easy thing by any means. So many challenges. We were discussing yesterday about some of the challenges. There's just so many challenges that we have. And what do we take shelter of? Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. That's the only place we can take shelter of. So, in this way, the Ramayana is a very dear text, and those who are fortunate to read it, you will realize how it just purifies you. It's an amazing book. And anybody who hasn't read it, I encourage you to read it. And those who have read it again. It's, most nectarian. Okay, it's been a long class, but we don't have breakfast today, so I took a little license in speaking a little longer. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, in the beginning, you were saying that the sages, they're performing the yajna in consciousness of Vishnu. So it was the most pleasing they were able to call down Lord Ram by their yajna. And yajna is displeasing to Vishnu if it's done with the idea of, with the desire of kama, and artha. My question is in relation to that and Sankirtan Yajna, is it that no matter what
it's not displeasing.
It's not okay.
It's not as pleasing. It actually doesn't give him much pleasure. But Krishna is very kind that he is pleasing, he's pleased even to the extent that people at least they're doing something. So Krishna is very kind. It's like one may not chant the holy name properly, but still you cannot say there is no benefit. Chanting the name offensively is not good. It doesn't give one, the full benefit of chanting the holy name. But still, chanting the holy name is better than not chanting the holy name. Nobody denies that. So same thing, yajna.
So depending on the consciousness, the one's consciousness, their absorption in Vishnu is depending on that is what kind of a result they get from the yajna.
Mm-hmm.
And so say for instance the Sankirtan yajna. One may have they perform the Sankirtan yajna, especially maybe a brahmachari, and they may have so many desires, when they're performing Sankirtan yajna, so many motivations, but ultimately the fruit is given to a pure source, given to someone that is actually going to use it, and directly to Vishnu. They're in good consciousness. Does that affect is that absolute their yajna, or is it?
See, definitely, ultimately, motivation to please Vishnu, please Guru and Krishna has to be the main motivation. One's performance of Sankirtan has to be pleasing to Guru and Krishna, and it's not a mechanical process. And that from that motivation there may be other motivations. Sometimes there are other motivations and this motivation, but one has to purify oneself to the extent where one puts forward the motivation is my behavior, is my characteristic, is what I am doing pleasing to Guru and Krishna. That has to be the prime behavior. Then everything else comes forward. Nobody instructed Dasharatha to give 100,000 gold coins. That became a desire that he had, but it was a desire that he executed that was in line with the main desire to please Krishna. Then this will please him, therefore I will do it. So similarly, a brahmachari distributing books understands that if we distribute a lot of books, it's pleasing to Krishna, it's pleasing to Guru. Guru is very happy with that. And he thinks, if we distribute like this, if we open this field, if we do this, we do that, it will be pleasing to. And for one who has that right motivation, definitely Krishna awards results. Krishna himself appears at such a yajna. That's what we see.
Yeah.
We see that from this, Krishna's main duty, one of the duties in this material world is to protect dharma. Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, he appears in this material world to protect dharma. So, Lord Chaitanya, he protects the Sankirtan Yajna. And one who is faithful in that regard understands that the Sankirtan Yajna has to go on no matter what. And it will go on. It's not that it cannot be done. There may be some challenges. There are challenges. Vishwamitra had so many challenges. They couldn't perform the Yajna. But they went to Krishna. Krishna solved it for them. There are challenges to performance of yajna in every day and age. And in fact, what are those challenges? The challenges always come in the form of being unable to perform the yajnas. Threatening the performance of those yajnas. That they have to hide, and that if you see the Krishna book, you will see that upon the appearance of Lord, just before the appearance of Lord Vishnu, the fires in the sacrificial fires of the Brahmanas, they spring up. You will see this in Krishna book description. They burn brightly, which before that, the Brahmanas were conducting their worship in a secretive manner, being afraid of Kamsa. But now the appearance of Lord Vishnu, it blazed forth. So whenever Supreme Lord appears, immediately that yajna becomes very prominent and performed in its full glory. So, but Lord Chaitanya will appear in this day and age, will appear in that yajna when the yajna is performed with the right motivations. It's performed as he says it should be performed, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service. So this is very important, and we see that in more challenging times, the Supreme Lord protected yajna. This is way more challenging times than what we are facing. Even the obstacles we face with the yajna, it's not like the obstacles that, say these sages faced. I mean, you have to see this. It's crazy. Look at this yajna. They're putting, it's like, wait, let me show you. So show you this side.
When they first entered the forest?
Yeah, I want to see. It's ugly like anything. Yeah. So disgusting. Okay. It says here that there along with the 7 sages, Vishwamitra inaugurated a 6-day yajna on the order of Lord Rama, the Lord of Kosala. So Rama says, okay, start the yajna. I'm going to protect it. Start it. Then, when the most glorious 6th day of the best of the fire sacrifices had begun, the entire sacrificial ground blazed in fire. There was a great sound of loud crying. This is an inauspicious, horrible, wailing sound. Upon hearing a confused noise from the sky and noticing 2 shameless Rakshasas, Lord Rama said, Lakshmana, get ready, and took his bow. Before those Rakshasas could pollute the sacrifice with blood, fat, and other secretions, the Lord of Sacrifice released a dreadful arrow at them. And then, in the description, Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu comments, in Valmiki's Ramayana, we find that Maricha, Subahu, and their dangerous followers came and poured a shower of blood. Adorned with that shower of blood, the sacrificial altar blazed. So you're sitting and suddenly you have a shower of blood. I mean, blood is a very disgusting thing when you see it. It's like, it's horrible. And as Brahmanas, and see, think about this. If you read Mahabharata also, you see, Brahmanas cannot tolerate blood. They cannot tolerate seeing blood. That's one of their characteristics. Is they cannot tolerate bloods. And this is why, when Karna were serving Parashurama, and the bee bore. Well, anyways, that was a demigod, but a bee decided to bore a hole through Karna's lap while Parashurama is lying on his lap. Parashurama just sits. Karna just sits there, unaffected, and blood flows, and then Parashurama he gets up because he feels the blood, and then he says, "You cannot be a Brahmana. You could have not tolerated this." It's not so much the pain that the Brahmanas cannot tolerate. The sight of blood is very, very, very difficult for them to see. And here they're having a shower of blood. Yeah. It's Rakshasas purposefully, they don't just cause a disturbance, they don't try to stop the yajna, they also try to disturb the minds of the devotees as much as they can. And then it said, noticing that they were suddenly rushing towards the sacrificial arena, the lotus-eyed Rama hurried a bit without being bewildered and readied his great bow. So the meaning of Narayana Pandit's text here is that the followers of Maricha and Subahu had showered blood on the sacrificial platform from afar, but before Maricha and Subahu could themselves come close to the sacrificial arena to pollute it with blood, fat and other secretions, Lord Rama shot them with his powerful arrows. Sri Govindaraja also mentions that while appropriate Vedic mantras were recited in the sacrificial arena properly, it was not possible for Maricha and Subahu to come to that arena, and they had therefore created some preliminary nuisance from afar. It appears that their plan was that as soon as the mantra recitation was stopped, they would come down and then pollute it with fat and other secretions too. But before they could do that, Lord Rama took up his bow to neutralize them. Such an important point that Govindaraja makes. He says that while appropriate Vedic mantras were recited in the sacrificial arena, it was not possible for Maricha and Subahu to come to that arena. So they were not able to directly come and pollute the sacrificial arena. Right? But what do? They create a disturbance in the mind. They create a disturbance in the mind of the Brahmanas.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And when they disturb their mind, the Brahmanas becoming disturbed might stop the recitation of the Vedic mantras. Immediately they sneak in. Think of this in the Sankirtan Yajna. That if you perform Sankirtan properly, if we perform the Sankirtan Yajna properly, then actually there is no possibility of being attacked. Prabhupada would emphatically state this so many times. World war nothing.
Yeah.
He said that so many times. But what happens before the demons can directly affect the devotees, they indirectly affect them by disturbing their minds. And the devotees, if their faith is not very strong, or whatever, for whatever reason, they become bewildered by some of the maya that the demons create, then they stop the Sankirtan Yajna, or they get diverted, their attention gets diverted. And then they are attacked.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really amazing point. The Brahmanas, they just have to have faith that Lord Ram is going to protect the yajna. It's really interesting how, it's not always that the demons want to even hurt the devotees physically, but they just want to, they know how dear the yajna is, to the Brahmanas.
They become envious of the yajna.
They
cannot tolerate the yajna.
Yeah.
They become envious of the yajna.
And then you can just sort of gauge how envious a living entity is by how much they want to just disturb the yajna.
Yeah.
And you can see that even now in Sankirtan Yajna. You may meet people and they may they may curse at you or whatever, but then you might meet one person who outright just wants to ruin the whole thing.
They just want to throw you out.
Just completely ruin the whole thing. They want to just follow you, shut you down, or they'll curse you out in front of everybody oh, you gotta go. Or maybe you're in the parking lot and they'll just break up all your sales, and they just won't even let you speak with anyone. But it's amazing when we're if we just have especially when we're in events and stuff, if we just understand that Lord Chaitanya, he's doing his work.
Right.
He's going to just have faith to just do what we're doing, and don't get agitated.
If that's the whole point. Yeah. That's exactly what they do. You don't fall for the bait.
Because the moment is you have your own motive. You have something in the mind saying someone's saying something, you just start talking smack back or something like that. It's ruin, But then you may just wait, and you're okay, and then a worker might come and actually you're good, But
And we learn also. We learn from our mistakes. Krishna also wants us to learn so that we become better devotees.
Yeah.
And we also see that even before, in this case, because the Brahmanas had tolerated for so long, and they didn't, in many times they weren't able to tolerate it perfectly. The yajna was stopped so many times, this way. But they would not give up. They would not give up. This time, when the Supreme Lord appears, and this is how mercy of the Lord comes in. The mercy of this time, the Supreme Lord did not allow them to become disturbed. Before they could even become disturbed, Lord Ramachandra steps in and kills and as Sankirtan devotees, you will have that kind of experience also. That you have that kind of
we were like in Asheville, in a specific person who they say they're devotee, but they were just completely trying to split up, like ruin Mahotsa Prabhu's like Sankirtan Yagya, and like saying so many things that whatever, the books are sponsored, whatever, and he like right then and there he just does a Bhagavad. Instead of, he could have easily just like gotten a full argument with this person, but instead he's just like focused on the Yagya, and he does a Srimad Bhagavatam like right in front of this person, like a Srimad Bhagavatam right in front of this person. It could have been so easy, But he has so much faith that Lord Chaitanya is doing the work, So that's really amazing.
Yeah. Okay. I think Mahotsa Prabhu has something. Huh? And Kalki.
You want to maybe call on your phone?
Call on my phone? Okay.
Pranam Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Pranam.
Pranam Prabhu, yeah. Thank you. It was a great class. I'm going to say thank you for the class, but it was a great class. I had like a few things. One thing is that, if you read the Ramayana, actually, Janaka Maharaj also defeated Ravana. Because Ravana also wanted to come and,
it's mentioned,
wanted to like kidnap Sita Devi. But he got a boon from Lord Shiva that only he
Brahma
can decide. From Lord Brahma, that only he can decide who would marry. Depending on how they break the bow.
Right.
And another thing also is that the Sri Vaishnavas, they have this whole thing about Vishwamitra Muni. He is so involved in the Ramayana up to the point of Citta Kalyana.
Citta.
And once,
Citta Rama Kalyana.
But once that happens, then Vishwamitra Muni is basically not even mentioned in the Ramayana.
Right.
What's the whole thing there? Because the whole duty of the devotee is to bring the Lord and his beloved to consort together. And once that happens, then he just he feels that he feels the perfection of his life, which it is.
Jai.
So anyway, you can call me right after class. I have something to tell.
Okay. Not for the class?
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just call me later.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What? Kalki.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Pranam.
I had a comment to make, and then Max had a question. So I just to make the comment that I believe it's made at the beginning of that Ramayana that Vidvan Grantha was given the translation of. But it's a really amazing point, actually, that he makes that when Lava and Kusha came and sang the Ramayana, it's described that Lord Ram was like hearing very attentively and very much excited and happy to hear it. And then in the commentary, the Acharyas mentioned, I think it's that because Lord Ramachandra is Dhirogata, that he's like a great personality, that he's humble and has all these amazing things. And the Acharyas make the point that because of him being such a great personality, he was so eager to hear the Ramayana, because actually the Ramayana is glorification of Citta. And so he was excited to hear that, actually, that it describes like the glories of Citta and such like that.
Right.
And they make the point that as a great personality, wasn't so much eager to hear them glorifying themselves in relation to Citta. So I always thought that was amazing, actually, because you think the Ramayana about Lord Ramachandra.
Right.
But then he tries to say that's actually about Citta.
Yeah.
So, but I'll give it to Max here to make his comment or question. Max.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So you mentioned earlier in the class, you were talking about how in the spiritual world, the devotees there are worshiping Lord Ramachandra purely and completely there. So I have, I guess, two questions in one, which is, do the devotees, like in the spiritual world, is that kind of what's going on? Is they're eternally worshiping a form of the Lord and engaging in his pastimes? And then the second part of that is it without the demons in the pastimes, or are the demons still there in the spiritual world too?
So there are no envious persons in the spiritual world. So demons, like in the material world, do not exist in the spiritual world. Yes, Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped eternally along with all his associates. And there they engage in discussing the narrations of the Supreme Lord. They engage in loving relationships with him. And in this way their lives are full. Actually, you will see that multiple times in the Ramayana itself. Those portions of the Ramayana are not revealed to us. For instance, there's an entire section where Lord Ramachandra grew up for 16 years. You don't know what happened during those 16 years. How he grew up and how he gave pleasure. It's just said that he gave pleasure to Dasharatha and Kausalya and all the residents of Ayodhya. Similarly, after Lord Rama's coronation, not much is described apart from the fact that he ruled very nicely, he conducted many sacrifices, and all the citizens were happy. But we don't know day-to-day affairs, what was going on. There are many such affairs and activities of the Supreme Lord, but again, Supreme Lord's activities are unlimited, so you cannot describe all of them. Secondly, also, primarily those things that are relevant to us are what are revealed to us, because the other ones we won't be able to relish much anyways. In fact, most of such descriptions of the Supreme Lord with his devotees are given in Krishna's pastimes, which is also actually quite difficult for us to approach. But there is no, it's actually an ever-increasing ocean of variegatedness, and there are a lot of festivals. You get a glimpse of that in the Ramayana. You do get a glimpse of it, and it's quite amazing how the residents of Ayodhya lived. Yeah, most of the description is relevant to us because we are also those demons in the material world.
So the pastimes in the spiritual world are the same, just without the demons involved in them?
There are more than what we know in the material world. There are unlimited pastimes of the Supreme Lord, and so much is not described. So much is not revealed, but they're unlimited.
That's true.
Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
So, I was wondering about, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Murari Gupta is revealed as Hanuman. So I was wondering, why does Hanuman come to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya if he is with Lord Rama happy ever? So what's extra does he has to gain in the Chaitanya Lila?
Supreme Lord in general, he brings all his associates. Several of the associates of Lord Chaitanya are not directly involved in preaching. They relate to Lord Chaitanya, and then by reading their stories, in fact there are many associates of Lord Chaitanya that we don't even know about. And repeatedly you will find in Chaitanya Mangal, Chaitanya Bhagavad, Chaitanya Charitamrita that the authors will say that there are so many associates, I cannot describe them all. So when Supreme Lord appears, he appears with his associates in order to enjoy different pastimes with them. Some of those pastimes are revealed to us because they are meant to give us instruction. And specifically, in the aspect of Murari Gupta, Lord Chaitanya reveals that although he has come to show the highest level of love, that prema that is exchanged between Radha and Krishna, and how that the gopis' worship of Krishna is really the highest, that unnato jvala rasa. Still, he describes how the other devotees, using the example of Murari Gupta, how the other devotees, their worship also is glorious, accepted, fully pleasing to the Supreme Lord, and fully satisfying to those devotees also. This is a very, very important point, because otherwise devotees can unnecessarily look down upon worship of those who may be attracted to other forms of the Lord. And that's offensive. While from the Lord's perspective there is a distinction, and therefore we study about it, from our perspective we cannot say that Hanuman is experiencing some less mercy than that of the gopis of Vrindavan, or that Hanuman is not sincere enough to become a gopi, or something like this. Because devotees draw all these kind of conclusions, they're very offensive. So using Murari Gupta's example, Lord Chaitanya gives us this instruction. And he's very pleased with that worship. So, yeah. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Mataji's? Yeah.
So you were speaking about how Citta was proving her purity by walking through the fire, and you said that for Lord Rama to, properly execute his dharma, he had to banish her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't explain how is him banishing her just because one person disagreed? How was that him?
So in Kshatriya Dharma, your citizens are not supposed to criticize you. It's duty of the king as a Kshatriya that he has to rule without blemish. And that was the track record of all the kings in his dynasty. And Lord Rama had to maintain that level of honor and dignity that all his previous forefathers maintained. And although Lord Ramachandra is Supreme Personality of Godhead and no blemish comes to him, he says, what is that? Name karmani limpanti, name karma pale spruhaha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I don't have to perform any karma and no karmic reaction can affect me. I'm not duty bound to perform anything. But still I perform it out of a duty. Anyways, that verse comes in terms of devotees. But that it is performed for loka sangraha, that is performed for the benefit of the world, to teach the world that that duty always has to be put first. And in that sense, Lord Ramachandra, he put his duty first, and it's a very painful thing, But that's how much he gave importance to it. That the citizens will not respect the king, even though the king may out of duty feel dutiful towards his wife. That how can I send her? Who will protect her? But because his main duty was that of a king, and he had to rule the citizens, and he had to do so, he could not tolerate that. And he banished Citta to the forest. And so the Ramayana also gives examples of how there is so much, even if one wants to follow dharma perfectly, in this world it's very difficult to follow dharma properly. Because the two conflicting dharmas appear. But Lord Ramachandra chose what is beneficial for the mass of people, that they may not use the example of Citta being in the house of somebody else and normalizing such a behavior, that they may not do that because that will destroy society, that will destroy dharma altogether. And for that purpose, he gave up his own wife, who he was duty bound to protect. So, dharma in this world is a very difficult thing. And therefore one has to always remember that even Supreme Lord, this is the example, that even Supreme Lord when he comes, when he has to follow dharma in this world, it's difficult. Therefore, instead of trying to become happy in this world by following dharma, perform your duties for the sake of Krishna's pleasure and ultimately become pure devotee. Go back home, back to Godhead. This is the instruction. Okay, all right. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Shri Valmiki Ramayana ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.